Hi, welcome back. This is video 2 of a 3-video series titled Tools for Determining Outdoor Recreationists' Spatiotemporal Behavior in a Variety of Settings. And my name is Brian Peterson. I'm at Clemson University and I work in the Park Solutions Lab at the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Management. And video 1 concluded with the slide GPS data loggers, and so we're going to continue on to the slide PPGIS, which stands for Public Participation GIS. And the purpose for this is it's suitable for macro analyses and the inclusion of social data. And by macro analysis, compare that to the localized nature of GPS data loggers that can record exact waypoints. Now, GPS data loggers and PPGIS are both techniques that can incorporate survey data and qualitative interviews. You can pass out GPS data loggers to recreationists and have them go out into a park and protected area, and then when they return, they can fill out a survey, or you can conduct a qualitative interview with them to see why they went to different places and why they spent their time how they did. And the same goes for public participation GIS. You can use that technique and also follow it up with a survey or a qualitative interview. So PPGIS is typically done in two different ways. The first format is that it is you put up a big map. So for instance, look at the figure I have here. This is for Beaufort County, and it's identifying areas where people object to oyster farming. So you can put a big map up of Beaufort County and then put a transparency over it, and you have each research participant come by and mark areas that they object to oyster farming. And then you can follow that up with an interview, qualitative interview, or have them fill out a survey to understand why they mark those places that they object to. The second way to do public participation GIS is using a tablet where they mark down areas that they object to, and then on that tablet they can fill out a survey, or you can right there do that qualitative interview. Now again, the limitation of PPGIS is it's not as localized as GPS data. So moving on to the next data collection tool is VGIS, and that's volunteered GIS. And this is typically using geo-tagged social media data such as Twitter data or Instagram data. I've also seen studies use geo-tagged Flickr data in which where somebody takes a picture, that picture is geo-tagged. So you have a bunch of point data of where people took pictures. Another form of VGIS is Strava data. So I've seen researchers purchase Strava data. And Strava is an exercise app on the smartphone that, say you're gonna go running or hiking or biking, you turn on your Strava app and it records all kinds of information about how far you went, how long you went, your pace. And so you can purchase this information and use it as part of your research. And what's great about this is it mitigates concerns about being tracked. You're not physically passing a GPS data logger to somebody that they have to carry. With this, it is taking information from their smartphone, and it's less intrusive in that regard. Now, the thing that is difficult with VGIS is social data typically isn't available as part of it. And that is, the reason being is to keep the data anonymous. And there's also no ability to ground truth the data. So with Strava, say somebody put down that they went running, we don't really have a way of telling if they actually went biking or if they're in their car and just driving really slowly and pretending to be a runner. You really don't know. Now, the last type of GPS data collection that I want to discuss in this video is using mobile phone data. And with mobile phone data, you can purchase large volumes of mobile phone GPS data. And just like with the VGIS, there's no social data attached to it and no ability to ground truth it. But mobile phone data can be used for understanding multiphasic travel of recreationists to parks and protected areas. You can see where they went before and after they visited a park, and you can use this to answer some types of research questions that are dealing with multiphasic travel. Okay, so that concludes the data collection tools part of this video. Now I want to get into the analysis tools, and there's 8 different analysis tools that I'd like to discuss that are listed right there. And before I get into it, I shared a figure here on this slide of the Bonneville Salt Flats, in which I just did some descriptive types of analysis in terms of central measures of central tendency. So if you look at the orange dot on there of the waypoints, that is the mean center point, sorry. And the yellow dot is the median center point. I also put in the central line feature, and I also put in a 1 standard deviation directional ellipse, which kind of tells you a generalized direction that everybody is traveling. And those are all just descriptive measures that can be easily analyzed in GIS software. So the tools that I have listed here, the 8 tools, are a little bit more in depth than that. And the first one that I want to talk about is space-time cube and emerging hotspot analysis. And this is in ArcGIS. And the reason I put space-time cube and emerging hotspot analysis is actually 2 steps to the same analysis. You have to create a space-time cube in order to conduct emerging hotspot analysis. And although this sounds super complex, it's actually quite simple. So let's imagine that we have a bunch of geotagged Flickr data over the course of 10 years for the Serengeti in Africa, and you want to see how those pictures are, where people are taking pictures in dense areas and where pictures are being taken where it's not so dense. And you can do this with running an emerging hotspot analysis, and it'll tell you such things in the output as where a new hotspot is, where a sporadic hotspot is, an intensifying hotspot, persistent hotspot, or a diminishing hotspot. And again, in ArcGIS, you have to create that space-time cube first, and then you input that into the emerging hotspot analysis. And it does sound complex, but it's quite simple. Moving on to the next type of tool is zone analysis. And zone analysis is where you break up the park into the management zones and analyze each zone. So this right here is Cumberland Island National Seashore, broken into 7 different zones that are the management zones. And for these management zones, I conducted a time allocation analysis where I looked at how long visitors were in each zone for each season, and then I compared that data using one-way ANOVA to see which zones have similar amounts of time allocation. The next type of tool that I want to talk about for analysis is density analysis, and examples of that is point density, kernel density, or line density. So this means you can conduct density analysis for point data or line data. And one of the things with density analysis that is great about it is you can conduct it at various temporal scales. So if you look at this figure that I have here, this is again for Cumberland Island National Seashore, and it's I have it broken up into the different seasons. And what I did is for each season, I conducted kernel density at each hour. So for spring, summer, and fall, I conducted kernel density at 10 a.m., and then 11 a.m., and then noon, and then 1 p.m., and 2 p.m., and so on. And you can see that I left out the winter season here, and that's because visitation to Cumberland Island is low during the winter. But what I did instead of using the winter data is I combined the spring, summer, and fall and called that all seasons. So this brings me to the conclusion of video number 2 of this 3-video series. And I want to thank you for your time, and I hope that you learned something today. And I look forward to you joining me in the 3rd video. Thank you.